Imagine winning the lottery tomorrow. Millions of dollars overnight, no warning. Take a second and actually picture it. Now, here's the uncomfortable statistic. A large number of lottery winners end up broke within a few years of winning. Not most, but enough that researchers have spent decades trying to understand why. Here's the plain version, no jargon, nothing dressed up. Getting something isn't the same as being ready to hold on to it. A bigger cup doesn't help if your hands are still shaking. Let's stay with the lottery winner for a while, because the story explains almost everything about why we lose things we chase and finally get. Picture the exact moment the numbers match. Disbelief, then euphoria, then a phone that won't stop ringing. Family, old friends, people who haven't spoken to them in years, financial advisors, strangers with investment opportunities. The winner didn't just receive money, they received an entirely new set of decisions, relationships, and pressures. They had zero practice handling, delivered all at once, with no instructions. A landmark study from the late 1970s tracked lottery winners over time and compared their happiness to a control group, including people who'd suffered severe accidents. The findings surprised almost everyone. Within about a year, lottery winners' baseline happiness had settled back down to roughly where it started before they won. The money changed their circumstances completely. It barely changed how capable they were of handling those new circumstances. Later research went further and looked specifically at what happened to the money itself, not just the happiness. Studies tracking lottery winners over longer periods found that a meaningful share had spent through most or all of their winnings within a handful of years, some ending up in worse financial shape than before they won, once debts and lifestyle changes were accounted for. The windfall didn't fail because the amount was too small. It failed because nothing about the winner had been upgraded to match it. Same nervous system, same habits, same untested reactions to pressure, just with far higher stakes attached to every one of them now. This is the part that gets skipped in almost every conversation about success. We talk endlessly about getting the thing, the promotion, the relationship, the money, the opportunity. We almost never talk about whether we're actually equipped to carry it once we have it. Think about what equipped really means here, because it's easy to assume it means something it doesn't. It's not intelligence. Plenty of the lottery winners who went broke were sharp, capable people in their regular lives, holding down jobs, raising families, managing normal budgets responsibly for years. It's not even discipline in the abstract sense, the kind of discipline you'd write on a resume. It's something narrower and more physical than that. It's whether your nervous system can stay regulated under a completely new kind of pressure, one you've genuinely never faced before, at a scale you've never practiced. A sudden influx of money creates constant decisions, constant requests, constant exposure all at once, with no on-ramp. If your body has never practiced staying calm and clear-headed under that specific kind of pressure, panic and overwhelm end up steering the decisions instead of judgment. Say yes to the wrong investment because saying no to a stranger feels unbearably uncomfortable. Lend money you shouldn't because refusing a family member triggers something you can't quite name, something that feels bigger than the money itself. Spend erratically because the sheer size of the number feels unreal, almost like it isn't really yours yet, so treating it carelessly doesn't feel like a real loss. None of that is a character flaw. It's an unregulated nervous system meeting a completely unfamiliar situation and doing exactly what unregulated nervous systems do under unfamiliar pressure. Reacting instead of choosing. Not because the person is weak or foolish, but because reacting is simply what an untrained system defaults to when it's handed more than it has ever practiced holding. This is why the phrase "more money, more problems" isn't really about money at all. It's about capacity arriving faster than readiness. The opportunity showed up before the internal system meant to handle it had any chance to build up its own tolerance for that scale of pressure. And here's the part that applies far beyond lottery winners. Because this pattern shows up anywhere a big outcome arrives faster than the internal capacity to hold it. Picture someone who spends months building a genuinely good method for growing their savings, small, careful, consistent. Then it starts working, faster than they expected. And that's often exactly when things fall apart, not because the method stopped working, but because their nervous system was never trained to sit calmly inside fast success. Every gain starts to feel like it needs protecting immediately. Every small setback feels like the whole thing is already collapsing. So they start taking bigger risks than the method ever called for, making moves out of excitement instead of sticking to what actually worked. and they give back in weeks what took months to build. The method was real. The capacity to hold what the method produced wasn't there yet. The exact same shape shows up in a startup founder who finally raises the funding round they've chased for years, and then can't function under the sudden scrutiny and decision load that comes with it. It shows up in someone who finally gets the relationship they wanted, and then quietly sabotages it because closeness itself triggers more anxiety than distance ever did. In every case, the outer world delivered precisely what was asked for. The inner system simply hadn't built the capacity to hold it yet, and nobody had warned them that capacity was a separate thing they'd need. So what actually builds that capacity? Not more desire. Desire got the lottery ticket bought and the trade taken in the first place. Desire was never the missing ingredient. What builds capacity is something much less exciting to talk about, which might be exactly why it gets skipped. It's deliberately practicing steadiness in smaller versions of the same pressure, long before the big version ever arrives. Concretely, that looks like handling modest financial decisions calmly before handling large ones on purpose, as practice, not by accident. It looks like tolerating small amounts of scrutiny, a little bit of being seen or judged, before tolerating a lot of it. It looks like starting with stakes so small that winning or losing barely matters emotionally, and staying disciplined inside that boredom long enough that good habits become automatic before ever raising the stakes to where the outcome changes how every decision feels. The goal isn't to avoid the big moment. It's to make sure that by the time it arrives, your nervous system has already sat through hundreds of smaller versions of the exact same pressure and learned through repetition that it can stay steady there. That reframes the whole question of readiness. It's not, do I want this enough? Almost everyone wants the thing enough. Wanting was never in short supply. The better question is smaller and less flattering to ask yourself. Have I actually built the capacity to stay steady once I have it? Or am I still hoping the wanting itself will somehow be enough to carry me through? Because the real risk was never that the opportunity wouldn't come. Opportunities come and go all the time, more often than people expect. The real risk is that it arrives on an ordinary Tuesday before you're ready,